Hi, in this edition of Conversations with CJ, I have my friend Colin Levy, who is the Director of Legal and Evangelist at Malbec. And Malbec is a leading contract lifecycle management company. Colin is a top personal branding voice on LinkedIn, and he also is the author of the book that I believe if you are, a general manager, marketing executive, or sales professional, and you have any business that's dealing with general counsel, you need to have his book, The Legal Tech Ecosystem, at your desk, and it needs to be distributed to all your directs. Today, we're going to have an exciting conversation, and I'm happy to introduce you to Colin. Hey, Colin, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Colin, I want to jump into it and ask you, what was the impetus of writing the book, The Legal Ecosystem?
I had always loved to write. Writing for me has always been something that has been therapeutic, and also allows me to get a lot of thoughts that are always running around in my head, out of my head. So when the world shut down in 2020, I had a little more time than expected on my hands. So I decided, all right, you know what? I've always wanted to write a book. So let me see, what happens if I actually start doing this. I already had a number of different sort of writings scattered about, but nothing really coherent. And I decided to start doing it as a way of following up on this passion that I long had and continue to have, which is informing and inspiring others about legal tech. And that's kind of what was the impetus for the book, was to help kind of put those thoughts together in a cohesive package to help introduce the reader to the world of legal tech and explore how legal tech was more than just tech. It was more than just people. It's more than just processes. It was all of that and more together, kind of working together and impacting one another in an evolving dynamic world.
Wow. And the book has so many contributions to it. You have, Cat Moon, you have Dennis Garcia, that have contributed to the book. You have Mark Cohen and also Jack Newton. And so that shows that legal tech, like you said, is more than just, legal and technology. There are people there. I also like how you describe yourself, and I think it ties to your passion for creating this book. That on LinkedIn you said, I am a guide, and you said, you see me as your guide, to help you talk about, whether it's understanding what legal tech is. I think you also said, how, helping a person find a job or something like that in legal tech. And I think it goes extremely well to what I read when I was reading your book, and how it talks about all these different opportunities and challenges that general counsel, in-house attorneys are facing in legal tech, today. And so, what are the common problems that you see GCs encounter, regardless of the industry, when working to drive higher value for their company?
Yeah, I think that driving value for their company is something that is very important to me and something that has, I think, been challenging for me, at least initially when I first became a lawyer. And the way I look at it really is it's not about driving value for yourself so much as it is driving value that others can see in what you do and how that value is helping to grow and protect the company. And so I think in order to kind of show that value and get people to understand that value, it starts with understanding your business. It starts with not just understanding your business and what it's all about, but also being able to speak the language of business, which is data and analytics. And technology can help you do both of those things. It can help you understand how your business operates. It can also give you insight into how and why things are done in what ways in your business. It's just a matter of understanding, first of all, what people are doing, what roles they have, what challenges they face, and then what tools they use to help them do their jobs better. And being able to kind of align yourself with those ways of working and those tools, and or perhaps improving yourself so that you can work better using tools that can help you work better with others. And it's just kind of an evolving process, really. And it takes time to get right. It takes iteration. It takes patience, and it also takes leading with empathy and understanding that it's not always going to go smoothly from day one, but you have to start somewhere. And so, I think technology can certainly help with that. But again, as I said earlier, with respect to kind of the ecosystem overall, technology is just one part of that. It's also very much about people, about processes, and how those two interact with tech in the context of whatever business you're in.
You said something that just resonates with me very well. Understanding your business, and I think that's important, specifically as if a professional is in the GC, the legal department. And I say that because what I found, this is right, during right before COVID, it seemed to me that oftentimes sales professionals would have to they will be working with their in-house attorney, and they're going through contractual dispute. Not s- I guess I shouldn't call it dispute. They're working through points of contention on the contract, and so it was the best in-house attorneys that I've seen working with sales were the ones who would stop and try to understand, you know, what are we trying to accomplish as a business with this customer, right? And how can I help you, with this contract? Because I know that we have to have this conversation with, the client's attorney as well. And so tell me what are the sticking points. But then also what they would do when they were working that out with the client's attorney, they would then come back to the sales team and say, okay, we've looked at our contracts and we've looked at the contracts that you typically send up to us for questions. We're going to do a training for you now. And it was like we're doing this training to help you become more comfortable having that conversation, right? And so that it can help us. Um, where have you seen where the best situations that play for GCs creating a collaborative environment in the respect of knowing their business so that they can, kind of debunk the myth that some sales professionals have that GCs slow down deals or even try to kill deals, because every GC that I've ever talked to, they said that is absolutely not the case. We're here to help you win.
Right. So there's been a couple instances where I personally have helped kind of overcome that challenge. One of them was I think a few roles ago. I was engaged in essentially a series of training programs with the sales team to help them understand why I did what I did, what work I do, why I work the way I did, and help them understand the documents I was working with, i.e., the contract, associated amendments, where there was, why certain things need to be pushed back on, and so on. And so the more transparent I was about what I was doing and why I was doing it, the greater amount of trust there was between sales and legal, and B, there was more opportunity for them to be more proactive because I understood what I was doing and why I was doing it, and therefore trusted me enough to bring things to my attention that they were working on that they knew I could help with, but they also knew I wasn't going to slow it down. But the more information I could work with, the better I could help them. And so they wanted to help me work better with them and be faster by bringing things to my attention earlier. And so I think that's really where it begins, is by being more transparent and collaborative on legal's part with sales, and letting them also understand that legal is not a magician. We don't perform magic tricks, but we also work in certain ways, and it's important for those we work with to understand why we do the work we do and the ways that we do it. And so building the kind of those kinds of relationships and that level of trust, I think, can really help people understand why legal is the way it is and why things appear to be one way when they may not necessarily be that way in practice.
Wow, that's rich. It sounds to me that in that situation that you were describing, that there was you truly felt engaged though with the team, and that
Yeah,
they
no,
would
there,
bring you in. That's important.
it is. It is super important because I think that too often legal departments seem to behave as an island unto themselves, and that does them a disservice and does their business a disservice. And so the way to overcome that is to build in trust, build in a, work on relationship building, and let other functions in and be collaborative and understand that contracting and or loitering in a business is a cross-functional exercise, and it's not just something for legal to handle on its own. Not to mention the fact that legal is only aware of what it's aware of. It's not aware of what it isn't aware of. And to overcome that requires transparency and trust. And that starts with, I think, being really open about what you're doing and seeking to learn from others in terms of what they do and why they do what they do.
That's the transparency and trust, relationship building. Um, to me, that sounds like some of the best sales leaders that I've had when I was leading a large organization within legal tech. They would invite the legal department to their team meetings with their managers, where they could actually hear the priorities and the initiatives. So the legal department can hear that. And they also had the ability to speak on it so that they could do some correcting if needed, in real time to those leaders. And that created a collaborative environment that was building trust, building a relationship. And when everyone would walk away from those meetings, they would understand, including the legal department, here are the top, let's say, key clients that are going to be going through the renewal process within the next 2 quarters. So hey CJ, why don't you go ahead and send me those contracts from the past 3 or 4 different renewal periods, right? So that I can have it already and take a look at it and see the changes that were made, so we can anticipate potentially, the conversation that we'll have if we have to go through, some redlining on the contract and things of that nature. So that I think that's truly important. Let me switch gears here because I know that I see you with a lot of different posts, on AI, and I know that you have your fingers on top of what's happening within the legal community from an AI perspective. What excites you most about AI and legal tech in 2024?
So I think the most exciting thing for me is the fact that we're on this journey and that we're at the early stages where we're able to experiment and iterate and learn a lot. And I think that's a lot of fun and exciting, at least in my view. And I think what's even more exciting is the ability to sort of exert a degree of creativity and control over use of these tools that we didn't have before. I'm thinking along the lines of things like legal agents, where you can create sort of a, little automated process that can create something for you automatically or review a certain thing automatically. That is really impactful because if you think about it, if you can build a number of those, then you can build sort of this whole automated process that you can, review, but you don't really have to be consumed with doing in terms of thinking about how to create it and then, being involved with every step of the process, which means that your time is better spent on things that are likely going to be more valuable as opposed on these sort of repetitive tactical things that, a legal agent could possibly do for you. And I think that's really exciting. At the same time, I think, again, it's important to remember that we're in early stage with this. So AI is continuing to evolve. Um, it will continue to grow more powerful, but it also will continue to make mistakes. It's imperfect. And so I think we have to be aware that these tools are powerful, but they're not perfect. And so we need to be open to understanding that it's not always going to get something right, much like humans don't always get something right. So I think, going in with sort of that eyes wide open approach, I think will leave us in a good place, but it definitely is an exciting time, particularly given how sort of accessible these AI powered tools are now.
Mhm, mhm. I agree. I think when you talk about exciting times, I think that we will see. I'm predicting that we will see. Obviously, the that I think the legal department is going to get a lot more busy with sales professionals knocking on their door, and I think that from my background, I saw when the business moved from focusing on litigation. practice areas, right? With solutions there to what we would have considered at that time transactional type work, which they would put the legal department there. Um, with the development of like practical guidance type solutions, and then you had solutions that were bolted onto Microsoft Office, right, helping with drafting and things of that nature. And it was that there was a huge opportunity within legal tech that you know general counsel had needs that were not being met, and that the company starts saying, hey, we can deliver solutions to meet these needs and grow profit at the same time. When you think about the different tactical processes that AI will be used to solve, what are some of the common use cases that you see that pretty much come to mind?
Yeah, I think that there is a number. One certainly is the summarization of documents. That is, I think, a very powerful use case currently because humans certainly capable of doing that work, but it's time consuming for us. And for an AI solution, it's incredibly easy because it's just data. It's just a lot of data, and they can just quickly review it and summarize it for you. So that is number one. Number two, I think, is um, brainstorming, coming up with ideas, outlining a potential process, and then you're able to iterate on it and improve it. I think that's another powerful use case because we often can think about processes, but again, these tools, you provide it with an input and it can just run with that input and do that pretty quickly. I also think that certainly, reviewing information and or providing analysis of such information can be pretty useful as well. Whether it is a text document, a bunch of data, or what have you, that's definitely, I think, a powerful use case. Um, I will also say, sort of as corollary, that while these are powerful use cases, one that I think people use AI for fairly often right now, and it's not necessarily the best use case, is sort of writing something as your own. Because these tools are very structured, it tends to write in a very structured, very predictable way, which doesn't necessarily reflect your writing style. So while it's great at creating like a draft of something, it's not necessarily great at creating the final draft of something. So I think that's important to keep in mind.
Mm, perfect. That's awesome. Colin, for a lot of companies that are working to resolve the issues and that the workflow issues that the legal department has, many of the sales professionals and marketing professionals, they do not have a legal background, so that they don't have a JD, right? Or they are not paralegals, but they do have access to their own GC. Um, what would you say if would be a best practice to learn more about what's happening in the legal departments? What are ways that if you were thinking about if you didn't have a JD, how would you learn? I know one of my answer is going to be obviously buy your book. I'm just going to throw that out there because this book to me is like one of the biggest springboards that a person can take. But in addition to the book that you wrote, what would you say would be like best ways for them to learn about the legal department and learn about the people that they'll be talking to?
So I think one of the best ways will be to reach out to, depending on the size of the legal department, someone in the legal department who works closest with your particular area, and just ask for a few moments of the time, 5, 10 minutes, what have you, for them to just kind of sit down with you and explain kind of how they work, what they do, and for you to kind of take that in and then ask questions to further educate yourself. Because I think that one of the best ways for anyone to learn about something else is to listen to those who are actually doing it. That's how I learned about legal tech. That's how I've learned about other parts of the business that I was a part of and what they did and how they worked. And it kind of has knockoff effects, meaning that when you do that, you're not just learning about what they do, but you're also building a relationship with them, which down the line can be really helpful. So that would be my probably number one suggestion.
That I love that because it goes back to one of the sayings, to be interesting, you have to be interested. So you need to be interested in that person that you're talking to, and that goes along beyond just their legal department, but also the customers that they'll be talking with about their solutions. Where can people find you? And I've been talking about the book and purchase this book.
Sure. So I'm found in a lot of different places. First of all, the book is widely available on Amazon, so that's your probably number one go-to place to get the book. So in terms of connecting with me, I'm on LinkedIn under my name, so feel free to connect with me there. I'm also on Twitter/X at @CLevy_law. That's CLEVY_LAW. You can also find me on my website, colinslevy.com. That's COLINSLEVY.com. And if you have any interest in photos of cats, I'm also on Instagram, where I frequently post photos of my cats.
That's awesome. I want to thank you so much for being generous with your time, sharing your insights. It's always great talking to you, and I really appreciate what you're doing in our legal community and the value that you bring. You are one of the many special talents that I say that we have that are amplifying a voice in legal tech and in the legal community. And I want you to continue to do that because you're needed, and it's very refreshing. And in your perspective pushes us forward. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. And as I, have said before, my role here is to inform and inspire others, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity. And it was a great conversation. So thank you again.
Thank you.